Welcome into the Wednesday Roundtable for Wednesday, October 24th, alongside Donnie Rightside, Jeff Nadeau, Ian Cameron. I am Drew Martin. We're going to be hitting on 3 college football matchups, 2 NFL matchups, a bet on fade team from the panel, and best bets coming up in the next 50 minutes or so. So feel free to chime in on the live chat what you want to hear about. Give us a thumbs up if you're liking the content as well. We'll go around the horn, introduce yourselves. Let's start off in the upper right-hand corner with Mr. Rightside. Follow him on Twitter at RightSideVP. He is Donnie Rightside. Welcome into the show, bud.
Looks like I have no double looping in my ear this week. I can hear everybody fine so far. So it looks like we're going to be able to make it through an entire roundtable here, get through the best bets, and have a lot of fun on the show. A lot of stuff going on. Major League Baseball last night. If a tree falls in the forest and, nobody sees or hears it, did it really happen? So many people waking up today probably not even knowing that World Series Game 1 was last night. But, hey, here we are. We're going to talk some football here. A little bit of lull in the schedule tonight, but it fires up quickly, as you know, with NCAA football Thursday and Friday. 5 games, I believe, on the slate on both of those nights and an NFL game. A lot to go over here on the roundtable. Good to be back.
Good to have you back, Donnie. No technical difficulties. Donnie's coming to us from the Philadelphia area, and actually north of the border is Ian Cameron. We can follow him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, Donnie brings up the World Series last night. I believe it was, the first time Clayton Kershaw was not favored, and some crazy amount of games started. Did you see the game, man?
Yeah, well, when Clayton Kershaw's up against the best team in baseball record-wise, 108 wins on the road, you can understand why he's an underdog, and certainly living up to that billing last night was the underdog tag for Kershaw and the Dodgers as they lose Game 1. Yeah, I watched that game. It was a very good game. Nothing wrong with the quality of the game. What I do have a problem with is you cannot have a 9-inning baseball game take 4 hours. That's ridiculous. I mean, we have not gotten any further in terms of pace of play improving or speeding up this game. It's time to look at the World Series game starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Enough of this 8 p.m. We got to get the game in prime time crap. I'm sick of that. These games are taking too damn long to play, too damn long to finish. You got people that are snoring, sawing logs when the game is still going on the East Coast. That's not right. That's not fair. I mean, you got to do something to either speed up the game or start it sooner. 4 hours to complete a 9-inning baseball game, that's absurd. That's asinine. Can't happen.
Well, we got one of the biggest markets in America, LA, a team in the World Series, and that would only be 4 o'clock West Coast time. People would still be at work, Ian. So how do you fix that?
That's the problem. Yeah, LA's in it, but you got to do something. This is the championship series, championship part of your sport. You got to allow all the people to watch it. You absolutely have to. And it's been a bone of contention all along that these games drag on into the night, overnight, and the people on the East Coast have already gone to bed. It's a problem. Big problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they need to do something with the bullpens, especially. Like, just have the guy ready to go. There's no warm-up pitches. He just runs in and he starts. The first pitch is a real pitch.
Yeah, or like Big Man watches a lot of soccer overseas. I mean, you can't just have endless subs. Imagine in soccer, I don't know, if you can just have 60, 70, 80 subs, you could just slow the game down and have 45 minutes of extra time provided. Why not just say, look, you got 3 pitchers available out of the bullpen. Let's see how you deal with it.
Yeah, I like that because when you think about like Little League in high school, you go from pitcher to maybe shortstop and back and forth. So there could be like, you have a bunch of kind of attributes to your game. But yeah, let's get Jeff in here. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He is the big man on campus. Anything on the World Series or what's on your mind, bud?
Nothing on the World Series. We'll let Ian continue his rant about times. I was enjoying that.
All right, Ian, have at it before we get into football.
No, it's just they've attempted. Give Rob Manfred credit. They've at least attempted and looked at speeding up these games, but they've clearly got to do more. The limited mound visits and some of the other little things they've done have clearly not done enough yet to actually make an impactful step forward toward making these games go faster. There's got to be more that has to be done, as far as I'm concerned.
Well said, Ian. And we got football coming up. We also have a bunch of people in the chat box. Zach Jones saying baseball last night, ? How about Blake Griffin dropping 50 on the 76ers? Wait, you got anything on that, Jeff or Donnie?
Yeah, Blake Griffin was terrific. He destroyed the Sixers, and they didn't do much about it. They just allowed him to continue to catch the ball, do what he wanted to do, and even late in the game, control it. He was fantastic. Look, Blake Griffin's a great player. I heard a lot of people telling me that he wasn't that good of a player, when he got traded to the Detroit Pistons, but he's a fantastic player, and that was a big time win for the Detroit Pistons last night.
When you see a guy in the NBA scoring 50 points, I was talking to McGinnis about this, about how much one player matters in the NHL. It's even more so in the NBA. I always wonder why, like you just brought up, they kept letting them catch the ball. In the NBA, why don't you just take that player out, not get beat by their best player? I'm surprised more teams don't take that philosophy. Are you onto that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Sixers, there's a lot of questionable things that they do, particularly on a defensive standpoint. That was kind of the growing sentiment around here last night on why you just allowed him to continue to catch the ball and do what he wanted to do. I mean, even the last play of the game where he went up to make that layup and got fouled, you let him catch it at the top of the 3-point line and just close right into the hoop. And Robert Covington comes out of nowhere, arms flailing all over the place. It's a bad foul. It shouldn't have happened to begin with, but you're right. At some point you got to double. Listen, Ben Simmons didn't play last night. That hurt the Sixers. He's a good defender for them. He could have helped, but yeah, I mean, that's a loss that you look back on late in the season and say, damn, one of those kind of games, if that would have went our way, we could have better standing or where we're at. Yeah, I don't know what that coaching was last night.
And what were you taught in the last 2 minutes anyway? If Blake Griffin's going to the goal and he's looking for a layup and you're Covington, why don't you just plow into the guy and put him on the free throw line? Because it's not like he had a sensational free throw shooting night. So you get him to shoot 2 free throws. I bet you probably misses one of the 2 and you'll be okay. What a just an awful break. But that's Rocco. I mean, that's what Rocco does. He gets some, played on an awfully record-breakingly bad team, gets a contract, and now people expect him to actually be a good functional basketball player, and it's just not the case.
I don't mean to go on a soapbox here, but he's been the most disappointing, frustrating player on this team. He's not good. He doesn't do anything to benefit his team really at all. He can't make shots. He doesn't defend well anymore. He's just irritating, and that's this team. That's an irritating loss.
Good stuff on the NBA, guys. We got to get into we'll start off with college football here. We got some big games. We'll start out west in the Pac-12. We got Washington State at Stanford. Looks like Stanford laying -3 at home. This number kind of surprised me, especially Washington State's 6-1 straight up, 7-0 ATS, depending what number you've got them. So they've been making money there, Mike Leach and company, 5-2 towards the over. Against Stanford, yeah, they are at home, but only 4-3 ATS, so making a little bit of money. 5-2. This is a key Pac-12 North battle. Ian, how would you look to bet Washington State Stanford?
Yeah, I mean, Washington State, you could say, okay, they took advantage of the situational elements in their favor last week because Oregon was coming off the big game against Washington at home that they won in overtime, exhausting game physically, mentally, and Washington State certainly looked like a fresher team coming off the bye in that first half. They just took it to Oregon in the first half, or in that first half last week. Gardner Minshew and that offense couldn't be stopped. Oregon made a valiant comeback. Maybe Washington State guilty of taking their foot off the gas. Mike Leach hinted at that in terms of their third quarter performance, which is when Oregon made their move, but too little, too late. When the game was on the line, they turned it up again, Minshew in that offense, and got that touchdown to really put it away late against Oregon last week. I'm not looking to fade Washington State. Yeah, you're a little concerned. Now they've got the situational concern going into this game that Oregon had last week. A little letdown potentially after a big win. College game day out in Pullman last week. That was a big game, big atmosphere, the likes of which you don't normally see on campus at Washington State. So can they rebound from that now, take their act on the road, play this Stanford team? But I'll tell you what, Stanford, there's one team in the Pac-12 giving up more passing yards than Stanford. That's Oregon State. That's not a good sign for that Stanford secondary here in this game against Gardner Minshew and company. He's throwing the ball everywhere. He's finding his receivers down the field. A bunch of them can make plays. And that Stanford defense is vulnerable this season. It's not been the same. It's been weaker against the pass. And on the flip side, you've got concerns. Bryce Love, it's been supposed to be a Heisman Trophy candidate season for him. It's been anything but. He hasn't been able to run the football. Haven't been able to open up holes for him. He's got, I think, 350 yards in 5 games combined. They've been relying on KJ Costello in the passing attack, Stanford, to move the ball. And I wasn't impressed with their win last week against ASU. They outplayed ASU, but let them hang around. And if ASU doesn't have horrible clock management in the final minute of the fourth quarter last week, they might win that game against Stanford. So I understand it's a little bit of a tricky spot for Washington State off that big home win, but I don't want Stanford here. It's dog or pass, and I think this game has points. I would go over the total. Maybe check weather, see it, make sure it'll be okay. I think it will be, but I think we'll see points in this game. I think Stanford more of an over team this year, and I think Washington State's going to have some success with that pass game against a suspect secondary.
Yeah, good point with the pass defense. I mean, if you're struggling on defending the pass, going against Mike Leach and company is going to be a rough assignment for you. Donnie, what about you? How would you look to bet Washington State Stanford in the farm?
Isn't it an interesting one? I guess if you're just going to look from the outside in, you say, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to get 3 points with a team that's currently rolling right now, that has destroyed teams, beating the Utahs of the world," and you say, "Well, how are they going to move the ball against Stanford?" And then you say, well, they had 524 in the air, 344, 445, 430, and 323 in their last 5 games. And they're getting points, and they just had a big win last week versus a team like Stanford, who is in one of those, crux situations in the middle of the season. Is Bryce Love even going to play in this football game? Stanford, known for their mean, lean running game. They can't run the ball this year for some reason, and yet they're favored at home. It seems to me more like this is like an NFL spot where you would say, well, wait a second. If one team had a big win last week, now they're going to go on the road. You want to fade them. -3 opening up Stanford is a huge telltale sign here, because that would be enough to almost keep me away and say, let's see how we're going to actually take Stanford here. Because if Bryce Love, it looks like he's not 100% healthy. So you say, well, how could you even take Stanford if their best player is not healthy when they're already not a great football team? And you see the other team coming in red hot on the road and getting points, where you just say, I'm just going to take the points and see what happens here. This line stinks to high heaven. So if I'm a capper here looking to bet this football game, which I don't want to be anywhere near it, especially Pac-12 games just usually go awry. But this line makes no sense whatsoever for +3 on the road, when you would think Washington State overall is the better team coming in here and less injured.
Yeah, yes, I agree with everything you said. This line kind of stinks to me as well. What the heck's going on here? It's almost like the wrong team's favored. But Big Man, what about you? Finish us off here.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a team that's 7-0 against the spread. Why are they, as Donnie said, why is this number where it is? This is actually a big game in this conference. I mean, both these teams at 3-1 in the Pac-12 North. Washington is at 4-1. So this is a big time game. I mean, if Washington State can win this, you're setting yourself up for the Apple Cup, and hey, see what happens here in the Pac-12. Big game for both these teams. And, Ian discussed it. They can't run the ball. Where's the offense going to come from? I'll tell you what, Tracy Clace has been very good for this Washington State defense. They've been able to continue to play very well on that side of the ball. But this could be that spot where Bryce Love gets going a little bit. The goal for Washington State has been to stop the pass. As far as stopping the run, can they do that? This could be a great spot at home. Stanford generally much better at home than they are on the road. I'm going to have to agree with Donnie, though. Late in the season, or kind of middle to the end of the season, it's kind of a weird number. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't want to go against Washington State. It's probably not something I will do, on Saturday when this game's played. But I see where he's coming from. The line just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. We're all in agreement on that one. What's going on there? And guys, we got to give a shout out. It's a pretty cool contest here at UWager. All you got to do is click on the link below, deposit $100, and you're eligible for a $10,000 value trip to Atlanta for 2. That's flight, hotel, the whole caboot, tickets to the game, $500 in souvenir spending. So check that out in the link. Just click on the link, and all you got to do is deposit $100. Enter the contest there. Jeff, we talked about this earlier. It's pretty good good value here for the watchers, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting into the contest myself. It's a great trip that I've discussed with you, Drew. You got to go out and make memories, people. Because eventually all this important stuff like Twitter and chat boxes, eventually that's not gonna be around anymore. And eventually be an old man, and you'll be wondering, where did I do and why did I make mistakes? Why did I make mistakes and not do things? So, hopefully you can win this. You can take someone, have a nice time at the Super Bowl, maybe see your favorite team, and it'll all be paid for. So, yeah, I think it's a great contest. Good for the winner, whoever it is.
Absolutely, yeah. And keep in mind, it's 2 tickets. So, you can bring your buddy, your girl, however you want to play it. But, yeah, check that out. Click the link.
Tell you
go
what,
to
Drew.
UWager.
I'll tell you what, Drew, I could get a bomb broad and take her there, and I'll tell her I paid for it. And fuck, I would love to win that trip, because bro, you could get laid for days taking a girl to the Super Bowl. So
You might lose her,
whoever
though.
you
That's a
want.
big celebrity atmosphere. You might take a
No.
10 down there and lose her within the first half hour at one of these big parties.
No, listen, Donnie, that ain't gonna happen. Listen, you take a girl to the Super Bowl, she's gonna be rocking with you for a little bit.
She will if you pay for it. I mean, I would always advise stay away from the 10s though, Jeff. You know, you want to stick with the 7s and 8s, and it's a
Go
little
ahead, dude.
safer.
Go ahead. No, you're right,
All
though.
right,
Listen, hey, whoever you take there, you have a great time. And I hope maybe you'll take me. You probably won't, but hey, I'm here if you want to take me.
that'd be fun. If you win, you could always take Jeff Nadeau. Trip to Atlanta. Atlanta's a fun town. I've lived there. And Super Bowl in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Guys, it's $10,000 value. Click on the link at UWager. All it takes is a $100 deposit. Let's move on down the card here. On the college football card, we got NFL coming up next and best bets. This one, it used to be referred to. No, we're still referring to it as the
We're
largest
still referring to it. Yes,
outdoor
correct.
cocktail party. Absolutely. It's a great name for a game. 3:30 CBS game. That's Eastern time. 167, 168 Georgia, Florida. Looks like 6.5 or 7. So this is a good one to shop around. You know, this is the key number here, guys. We talk about it all the time. Have a good book and make sure you're going to get paid. You want to have more than one. We got Georgia -6.5 or -7. Also on the total right now, 51.5 or 52 at SBR odds. Both teams 6-1 straight up. However, big difference in making money for their backers. Florida 6-1 ATS, Georgia only 3-4 ATS. So big difference there. Georgia really relying on their defense, which has been good. Donnie, I want to start off with you. Jacksonville, largest outdoor cocktail party. I like Georgia here. I think it's a buy low opportunity. That loss against LSU, a lot of people saw it, laying less than a touchdown. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to actually go against the grain here. I'm going to use it as almost like a little bit of, going over to London where it's a neutral site game. You're going to give the team, plus 7 points. Now, look, it is in the state of Florida, but it's going to be a 50-50 crowd. Jacksonville's not that far away from Gainesville. And all these teams are used to going here, but you're going to give them 7. I think Florida is one of the more unheralded teams in the country because when you look at them and see they're 6-1, they don't get any publicity. They don't get anything. They don't lead Sports Center. On Saturday, when you show the SEC, they're nowhere around the top. You're usually showing Georgia, LSU, Alabama, and whatever they're doing out there, or some other SEC team. They're flying very well under the radar at this point here, playing good defense. I mean, look, they have Felipe Franks. That's all everybody's going to think about. But I think I saw a stat come out today that since 2009, he already has 15 touchdown passes this year. Since Tim Tebow, that is the most in a season for a Florida Gators quarterback, which, again, you would never know. Most people in the country can't name 2 players on the Florida Gators roster because it seems like they're not the SEC game of the week, and they just get buried because you want to watch a game, like I said, down in LSU or see what Tua's doing in the first half is 10 for 13, 300 yards. But you're getting a really good Georgia team coming in, and you're getting them off a loss. But the more I look at the overall schedules and what they're able to do and stop, I mean, look, what Florida's done since they lost at home to Kentucky. Colorado State, throw that out. They blew that team out. They went to Tennessee in an SEC environment and drilled Tennessee. Then you play Mississippi State on the road, who's a pretty good football team, defensive battle 13-6. You beat LSU, who's a damn good football team, 27-19, and then you put one on Vanderbilt on the road and you had a lookout situation. I might just be taking the 7 points in this spot here, saying Florida's going to play good defense. We'll see how Georgia responds now that they got punched in the jaw, and it's a good thing for Florida because you already see on tape, like, hey, man, these guys aren't coming in here undefeated and crushing everybody. They lost last week to a team that you handled. Let's go out here and handle our business. I'll take the 7 here.
Well said. Good argument. Big man, what about you? Where are you at in Georgia, Florida?
Listen, I just see 31-17 in this game for some reason. Look, I think Florida has shown this year that they can win some big games. They obviously beat LSU, which was impressive. But I think you're right, Joe. I think this is kind of a lower buy spot on Georgia. We know they're the better team. Florida just doesn't do much for me. This will be a low-scoring game, but I feel like Georgia will get a pick or two, set themselves up, and maybe put up more points on the board than they should. I'm not a big fan of games like this. I don't have much on it. I just look at Georgia and I tell myself, I think they're 7 points better than Florida. I could see it like 31-17, something like that. I'm not really looking to bet on Florida here. I don't like the quarterback situation there ever. Defensively they're very good, secondary particularly, but Kirby Smart, this Georgia team with the running backs and Fromm, defensively they're very good in the secondary. It could be tough for Florida to move the ball here. I'm not really interested in Florida. I would probably lay it with Georgia if I had to.
Okay, good stuff. And Ian, what about you? I mean, this is in a lot of ways the SEC East Championship. I know Georgia still has to go to Lexington, Kentucky, which might get them as well. But other than that, this is the biggest game on this side of the conference. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, they got to give both teams credit. They've had good seasons to this point. Georgia, the hiccup, of course, against LSU, but that was basically, they've had a bye week to settle down after that. I still think they're better than Florida. I kind of lean Georgia less than a touchdown, but can't take anything away from what Florida's done. Florida's played better and better, it seems, each week. The last 3 weeks, they beat Mississippi State on the road. They they beat LSU at home. They beat Vanderbilt, come way from behind. To beat Vanderbilt. Both of these teams off the bye, actually, Florida as well. Florida's playing better. Their defense playing better. But I'm really concerned about their offense against Georgia's defense here in this game. This is going to be a totally different class of defense that they're going to have to face here. Probably not a game I'm going to have any sort of substantial wager on, but at less than 7, I'll give a lean to the Georgia side.
Okay. On the side, I'm with you. So seeing Georgia -6.5. However, Donnie kind of leaning towards Florida +7. All good. We'll see what happens there.
Drew, that's a bit cocktail party. I'd prefer we don't use. It's a bit I don't know, just a bit too.
What?
I'm a little offended by it. Can we just call it something else?
It is 20-18. We do have to take his feelings into account, guys. We maybe shouldn't call it the cocktail party. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, the football game's not a cocktail party. It's mostly, adults attending the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, they don't lower the drinking age to 13 at the game. So is it really harmful that it's called a cocktail? How many times do you have a cocktail reception, cocktail party, cocktail hour? Do they all have to go away in society?
Let's just call it a football game, dude.
Well, we can move on to another football game. Is it okay if we call this the degenerate special, big man?
I was hoping we would go to UTEP one time this year, but we can use these, yeah.
That would be fun.
Okay. We're going to start to move there, Donnie. It's just this one was a late start in the Pac-12. I really like this one. And
I just wanted to hear Sean Kugler out of your mouth at least 6 to 7 times a year. That's what I always look forward to on these.
Hey, how about how UTEP isn't one of the worst teams?
This isn't really a degenerate special.
Yeah.
Degenerate specials, like Butler and some Division II game. That would be a division. That would be a degenerate special.
Yeah, this is a good degenerate special, Drew. You did good work here with this. Yeah, it's a big game.
No, all right. I promise. Next week we'll have a real degenerate special. This one you can argue it, but yeah, Donnie. I don't know if you've noticed, UTEP's playing teams tough. They're not the worst team.
There you look. Coming on strong late in the season. Messing around with the North Texases of the world. We'll see, man.
Yeah. Well, let's get to this one. We got the late night 10:30 p.m. kick, 209-210, Oregon at Arizona. Guys, I love Oregon -9.5 here. I think we talk about buy low. This is a chance to get on the Ducks against the Arizona team that I think is going to lay down 65 the total. We got Oregon 5-2 at Arizona 3-5. Who agrees with me? Ian, you think Oregon -9.5 is the side?
I think Oregon -9.5 is the side. It's a shame we've got some nut jobs and whack jobs in the chat, but that's another story. Oregon -9.5. We're looking at a situation here where I don't know what you can do to back Arizona at this point in time. You're looking at an Oregon team that is coming off a loss. They have had some offensive line issues. That was a concern going into that game last week against Washington State. That was a little bit of a banged up offensive line for the Oregon Ducks. And I think they suffered a little bit offensively from it. It really wasn't until the second half when Washington State had that big lead where Oregon and Justin Herbert and company really got that offense going in that game. And the offensive line still a little bit of a concern going into this game. But the Arizona we know has had issues like crazy. They haven't been able to get any stops this season. Kevin Sumlin's had a really, really trying year. It's clearly for me road favorite or nothing. I don't want this home underdog.
Donnie, you with us? You like the Ducks -9.5?
Actually, I actually don't like a side in this game, but I like a total. This sounds crazy entering into the season. You had Khalil Tate, and you say, this guy is a video game out there. The scoreboard is going to explode every time he's out there, just like you got the feel last year with Rich Rod. But am I missing something here where I thought the offense was much more fluid and balanced last week under baby Rich Rod at quarterback than Khalil Tate on one leg? Now, I know they're talking about will he play in this game. Sit Khalil Tate down. This game should easily go over the total because the one thing that's going to take place is Oregon is going to come off that loss last week, go and play down on the road against a team that doesn't play very good defense and get, quote-unquote, their ducks in a row in this one and be able to score well into the 30s. But that Arizona offense balance last week, look, not the most accurate passer, Rodriguez, but if you're going to have an offense 289 yards on the ground, that's 7.6 yards per carry, and then balance it out with 231 in the air, which per dropback attempt was 15.4 yards, you should see points here. Please, no Khalil Tate. No Khalil Tate on one leg, no Khalil Tate at all, and I think this game goes over the number.
I like that. You're bringing up the change at the quarterback position. We saw it with the TCU game as well. When you go to the backup quarterback because the starter's injured in some way, sometimes it can be a really good thing. I like that take, Donnie. Big man, what about you? How are you looking about Oregon, Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback situation for Arizona is quite dire right now. I mean, you have this Rhett Rodriguez kid as a quarterback, threw for under. I mean, you're under 50% last week against UCLA. I mean, I don't really feel a lot of comfort that now you get Oregon this week. The problem that I have at Oregon is they're 3-9 against the spread over the last 12 on the road. They don't cover on the road really, but I don't see any reason to back Arizona. I mean, they're bad on defense like always. I mean, when is Arizona ever? Are they ever good on defense ever? The Khalil Tate
what was it back with Teddy Bruschi back in the day? What was that? The Desert Swarm? What's that, about 30
feels
years
like
ago
it's been
now?
a decade. Yeah, it feels like it's been at least a decade that they've had a good defense. Yeah.
I mean, this
Brutal.
team has given up, 6 yards of play. They're just a mess. And now they have this guy at quarterback that just can't move the ball. Oregon has improved on defense, as we know. I feel like they go down and take care of business. They're a team that has been really good at times this year. They've looked solid. We obviously know they have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. How many points is he going to put up this week? I'd be looking maybe towards the team total here. Arizona is generally who we think they are every year. And Khalil Tate isn't in there, and that, if you have any positivity on this team, it would have been him, but he's not even in there. So yeah, for me, I would probably rock with Oregon, though I would be a bit concerned that they're not great on the road.
Yeah, I think his name is what? Brett Rodriguez or Rhett Rodriguez, something like that.
Brett.
Yeah, he's only like 5'10" or 5'11", but he understands the offense. So putting the ball where it needs to be, it could be a plus. Donnie, he's your boy, huh?
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, like, the numbers don't lie when you look at that. I mean, look at Khalil Tate under center, 98 yards on the ground, 232 in the air, 124 in the ground, 141 in the air, 72 on the ground, 246 in the air. And then you get a balanced game where you have almost 300 yards on the ground and almost 250 in the air. At least the offense is showing a semblance of moving. You had two running backs last week go over 100 yards. Maybe it's opening it up, and it's not like Khalil Tate with all this pressure on his back and with a high ankle sprain trying to make things happen. Just let the young kid go in there. Let the Kevin Sumlin offense just operate like it's supposed to, and they should be able to get into the 20. I mean, look, Oregon has improved their defense over the past couple of years. Don't get me wrong here, but this just has one of those nice weather games on turf where Oregon's just going to put up a good amount of points from their side, and I think Arizona can return a little bit of fire here, just the way the game is going to play out. Don't give me Khalil Tate. Stay away, Khalil.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's better for Arizona not to have him. So you bring up a good point with that over. That might be a look as well. Thanks, Donnie, for that. Mm-hmm. Guys, let's move on to the pro game here. We got Philadelphia, Jacksonville in free fall. I know personally because I've been betting them and not been doing well. But either way, 9:30 a.m. Eastern start. You know what that means. Not here in America, but 3-4 for both teams. Looks like we got Philadelphia minus 342 the total. Kind of surprised by this number. I was thinking Philadelphia would be a little bit heavier of a favorite. Let's go to Jeff. You want to start us off with this? We got your hometown team. Would you look to lay the 3 with them?
Oh, I'm not looking to lay anything with them right now. Here's the thing. I mean, this Eagles team has never been to London. They're heading over there, I believe, tomorrow, and gonna obviously explore a little bit and get going. It's a different week, as Donnie knows, as everyone knows here. You have to prepare a lot more different, and you have. I mean, you're gonna have Jay Ajayi's from London, so maybe he could teach the team a little bit. He can help them out. But as far as on the field, you have two teams here that are kind of going negative directions. I mean, the Jags, who's their quarterback going to be? Blake Bortles on a quote-unquote short leash, whatever that means. That can't inspire a lot of confidence in Blake Bortles that not only are you going to be thrown out there, but hey, if I fuck up one time, I'm going to get benched. It just kind of sets a negative tone, I feel like, and that was bad wording by Doug Marrone. The Eagles, though, don't really finish games. The defense has been all over the place. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they look bad. They can't get a pass rush. They have no running game for the most part, and Carson Wentz takes too many hits and has to do too much. Both these teams are just not backable to me. I don't want to get involved with them. I'll root for the Eagles from a win standpoint, but we can't divulge away from the elephant in the room. The Jags are very familiar with this trip. They make it every year, and they're used to it. So I think that could play a part here. I'd imagine this is a close game because I think at the end of the day, the Jags are still pretty good defense. I don't have a lot to split these two. I think it's a close one. I'll root for the Eagles to win, but I'm not interested in laying points with them right now.
Okay, the Jags do have a good defense. I mean, that brings up, 42 is the total long trip for both teams. Offenses might be off. You like the under, Donnie, or a side in this one?
Look, if I'm looking to bet the game, which I don't really like to get involved in London games, a little bit too much extracurricular activity. Some teams don't want to go over. Some teams don't like to go over. It's a weird atmosphere. The field is always like an ice rink surface out there for some reason where nobody can get any traction. But if you just break this game down to its common elements, when you look at Jacksonville and you say, well, where's their direction right now? Fist fighting in the locker room, don't want to answer any questions, everybody doing their own thing. A quarterback that you just signed to a big contract in the offseason, and the head coach is standing up in front of the podium going, yeah, he's on a real short leash this week. Oh, that's great, man. Blake Bortles is already manic as it is as a quarterback. So now in his head's going, if I go 3 and out, I might never play again in this league. So that's going to lead to more fumbles, more interceptions, more let me thread this needle instead of dropping it down the flat for a 3 or 4 yard play. That's never the same. And when you look from an Eagles side, look, they did blow the game last week. They were the better team than Carolina. Just let it slip away in the fourth quarter, which we see a lot, in the NFL these days with teams making some comebacks that should be already dead and buried.
But this is his third time they've done that this year. I mean, it's a question of coaching at the end of the game. I mean, they continue to let games fall away. I mean, you can't, Donnie. You saw it. I mean, you're dancing at the 50-yard line like the game's over.
The best part about that whole dancing thing is the fact that Fox or whoever, the CBS game, whoever showed that, held that until the game they were losing. I would have loved if they would have put that up at 17-0 and the Eagles won 34-0. It was a lot of fun last year when the Eagles were line dancing every game in the fourth quarter and nobody talked about it and said, "Oh, look how free they are and careless, and they're playing real good football by doing that." Now all of a sudden you dance at 17-0, you hang that video back for 30 minutes and then bring it out so it fits the narrative out there. That had nothing to do with that game. I'm just saying in this game, I'm looking for one team like the Philadelphia Eagles, a little bit banged up, yes, lost Eric Barnett, but they have an all-world quarterback back there. And you're going to go on the road, and Blake Bortles, and again, this qualifies as road Blake Bortles, where you're going to get 16 for 31, 2 fumbles, and 3 interceptions. They have no wide receivers. They have no tight ends. They barely have a running game. I know they have a good defense, but if you're asking me to put my money, I think Carson Wentz can outduel Blake Bortles and win this game by 4 points. That's just the way I see it.
I'm with you, Donnie. I think it's a short number as well. Ian, let's get you in here. How would you look to bet Philly-Jacksonville?
There's no way in hell I'm back in Jacksonville. Okay, that was red flag city last week. That is a team falling off a cliff, but you're back home. Divisional game, you need the win against the Houston Texans, and you come out and play like that, and Blake Bortles is a turnover machine, and it's like he's, you need to spray WD-40 on his hands because he can't keep the football in his hands, and then Houston's able to take advantage right off the hop with an early touchdown, and then, of course, it just falls apart from them, and the defense has taken a big step back. There's not a lot of confidence right now with this Jags defense. They've played poorly on that side of the ball the last few weeks. Even Houston was able to move the ball and have success against them. And that's definitely an issue. Going into this game, you've got locker room turmoil with this Jacksonville team as well going into this football game. You've got them questioning what Doug Marrone's doing, going back to Blake Bortles when, believe it or not, Cody Kessler, you can say if he's good, bad, or indifferent as a quarterback, he gave that team a little spark at least last week in the second half against the Houston Texans. And he actually moved the team and got them going a little bit. And now Doug Marrone, like a dope, comes back and says, I believe still in Blake Bortles. We're giving him another chance. This is a stinky situation right now with Jacksonville. Philadelphia is just not playing great. and they're not playing 60 minutes of football. But I don't think there's locker room issues with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're just not playing great right now. Jacksonville's not playing great. They got locker room issues. They have no confidence in the guy under center anymore after what he's done the last few weeks. Yeah, there's no way in hell I back Jacksonville in this game. Philadelphia or nothing.
We got D from Detroit saying anybody betting Jags needs to find another line of work. So that's sounds to be in agreement. However, we got Troy saying something in the chat box that I think he brings up a good point. At least you got to have in your mind going into this. Don't you think the Jags having done the London trip a bunch of times is a big advantage? Donnie, would you give any credits to that?
Yeah, I said that already.
Well, I'm sorry. What was that again? Go ahead.
That something Jeff said and Troy said about the Jags doing the trip a lot is a big advantage.
Yeah, there's no advantage in that. There's no advantage. It's like saying I go to Atlantic City 4 times a year, and it's an easy trip, but I make it every 4 months. Your body doesn't react or remember that time to go out there, or maybe you stayed at the same hotel, or maybe you have the same food. But I mean, rosters change so much in the NFL too.
Here's what you're missing. If someone on the chat goes to Atlantic City and you go to Atlantic City, you're much more used to it, and you know it. It's like the back of your hand. You've just been there before, and it's not out of the ordinary to you. I don't understand how that's not an advantage to you.
But it's not really, because it's not like a home field advantage. Like if you were playing back in the day where Green Bay would play at Milwaukee County Stadium and Lambeau Field,
I just think the trip itself is a bit more easy if you've been there and you kind of understand, But yeah, I mean, it's not a home field advantage. You're right on that. I would agree with that for sure.
Guys, we got 200 people watching right now. Thanks for tuning in. If you're liking the content, please give us the thumbs up sign, the like button. Also, if you could retweet on Twitter, share on Facebook, try to get the word out. 10 a.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, talking really all things sports betting right now, mostly college football, NFL. We got college basketball, NBA coming up. I guess next season, in a month or two, we'll be talking that a lot. But we got 267, 268 finishing up here in the NFL before we get to best bets. Indianapolis at Oakland. Looks like Indy laying 3 on the highway, 49.5 the total. We got a situation here. We see it in baseball a lot with teams kind of selling off, getting ready for the future. This is the first time I've seen it like this big in the NFL with Oakland, getting ready for the move, want to be good going into Las Vegas. It's kind of like I view it like that. I mean, I know you guys know the NFL kind of better than I do. Do you agree with my assessment there, Jeff, as far as Oakland kind of preparing for the move to Las Vegas?
Yeah. I think that's kind of weak, just because they're preparing for Vegas, but they still, like Donnie said, they still have a few years to go in Oakland. What is this selling your current fan base? That you're just kind of throwing in the towel and whatever they feel like doing, do it. I don't know. I think it's kind of sets a bad precedent for the fan base, but yeah, I mean, you're not getting, you're getting first round picks back. It's how you use them, and that's the big question. I have a feeling Derek Carr's probably next. Why not move on from that as well? It seems like the fire sale is beginning. What's the thought process with this team right now? I think they're probably the worst team in the league, so it's hard for me to get involved with them. But I also look at the Colts and I say to myself, do I really want to lay 3 points with this group? They're not really much better. I guess they have a capable quarterback, so I mean, there's something to look at there. But the defense, I think they have some trouble. The NFL is a weird league. I'll take Oakland because I don't think anyone else will, and I think Indy's not very good, so I wouldn't want to lay 3 points with them. I'll take the fact that this line will probably sit at 3. Everyone will take Indy, and this game will come down to the last second, and Oakland will win on a field goal or something. I kind of likened it a few weeks ago. Oakland was in a similar situation. Donnie, you had them, I believe, against, I forget who they played. Do you remember offhand?
Cleveland. Well, actually, catch the thing with Oakland, which I should send that into some Hall of Fame somewhere. So
right. It's kind of a situation where, like Cleveland and Indianapolis, I don't want to lay 3 points with those groups, and I'll take the points with a team at home. Maybe they'll give an effort. They'll try to impress. Whoever's in. They're trying to impress and show that they're worthy of standing on TV. I don't know. It's a weird spot. No one's going to take Oakland, so I will. Maybe we get a performance out of them.
Donnie, what do you think about this whole scenario? You know, it's kind of like we see it in Major League Baseball from time to time, teams preparing for the future. We're seeing it actually for the first time this strongly that I can remember anyway in the NFL as far as a team preparing for a new home. How would you look to bet this scenario and anything on this game, Indianapolis-Oakland?
Yeah, this is a real interesting one when you try to take a look at it, because you have one side with Oakland where John Gruden's not going anywhere. And the word on the street is they're not even going to play in Oakland next year. They might even play in San Diego before their home gets, up and running. So how much of a home field advantage are you actually going to get in this? One of the locker room leaders that you had was Marshawn Lynch. He's going to be put on IR for at least 8 weeks. You traded Amari Cooper, but you weren't even using Amari Cooper. So I don't know how much of an actual downgrade that is, other than maybe the other team had to watch Amari Cooper just because he was out there. But betting these are the most tricky spots and situations in sports, because what you're getting out of the Oakland Raiders and what you're getting out of their locker room is, and this is the NFL, where you only play maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years if you're a really good player, 5 years and maybe beyond, where they're saying, I like, coach doesn't give a damn right here. He knows he's going to be here like 10 years. Maybe he doesn't even like me. I was part of the old regime. I got to preserve here. So I talked about it yesterday on the Audible with Jimmy, saying, well, who actually wants to tackle here? Because we saw it last year. If you go back to a game where, remember when the Giants quit last year? Jack Rabbit quit. Eli Apple was they're calling each other out in the media. This happens when you have a 3rd-and-1 play or a screen pass where on the opposite side of the field, if you give your all, you tackle that guy for a 30-yard gain. When you don't care anymore, he scores a 55-yard touchdown instead of a 30-yard gain. Does that pop out here? We don't trust, in the locker room, we don't trust the quarterback out here. So now he's feeling like nobody wants to block for him. Let's not forget, this is also the same locker room that said David Carr didn't take a knee or stand with us at the national anthem. So there was a word on the street that they let him get sacked like 2 times on the first series of the game to prove a point with their quarterback. This is a fractured locker room scenario. Indianapolis is playing really well, but I see Jeff's point where in the NFL, you do want contrarian points. And you say, you know what? If everybody's going to line up and take Indianapolis, I want to try to find a way to take the Oakland Raiders. But betting into a fractured locker room is so dangerous in the NFL because guys go into self-preservation mode saying, if I'm not going to be here, at least I'll be healthy and be on another football team next year.
Ian, what do you got? Do you agree with Jeff and Donnie?
This is a really tough one because this is like Jacksonville for me with this Oakland team. It's very, very difficult for me to find a reason to support them right now. Even off the bye week, I saw a team that flat out quit, laid down, and were dead in that game against London, or that game against Seattle in London 2 weeks ago. They didn't show up to play a football game. They showed up to, I don't know, look at the sky, pick their nose. I don't know what, but it wasn't to play football that day against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, that was a abysmal, piss-poor performance. The defense got shredded. What else is new? Oakland's had no pass rush, no secondary, can't stop the run. It's been the same all year from them, but their offense got crushed. I mean, Derek Carr was just a human whoopee cushion in that game. Seattle was all over him and sacked him multiple times, of course, with the famous look at him. It looked like he was crying, and apparently that's rubbed the players the wrong way. Like, this is football. This is a tough sport, physical sport. Stop crying. Be tough. And you got to wonder if there's something to that. Have the players lost confidence and faith in Derek Carr as a leader and a quarterback on this football team? Now you add on to the fact that Amari Cooper's been traded, and I'm telling you what, this guy is a very overrated receiver. He drops too many passes. He's had issues. But he's still Oakland's best receiver. I mean, who are you going to rely on now? Martavis Bryant, who's a mental case. Jordy Nelson, who looks like a shell of his former self in Green Bay. Who are you going to rely on to throw the football to? And then you've got this bad defense here behind them. So, and now you've got people wondering about Gruden, and is Derek Carr going to even be back with the team? There's just too many issues, and I can't trust this team mentally to play good football this week because I didn't see them do it at all 2 weeks ago against Seattle, even if they are coming off the bye week. However, here's the issue with back in Indy. The look-ahead line was Oakland -1.5. It's now Indy -3. I mean, that's a big-time move we've seen here. Is the value still there? Is the question. Indy played a great game last week. Offense got going. Hey, it's amazing how better the Colts look with T.Y. Hilton on the field. He's the one guy that's not going to drop passes for them. He was fantastic. The offense got going. Got to give Andrew Luck credit. It's been a trying year for the Colts, but he's still chucking the ball down the field. He's still playing pretty well, playing pretty hard, trying to make plays. Give him credit for that. Hey, even the Colts defense, which had struggled, showed up last week in a big way. Now, that was against a journeyman, older quarterback, and Derek Anderson making his first start behind a bad offensive line and limited skill position talent. But still, nevertheless, the Colts defense did play better in that game last week. So I'll tell you, if you press me to make a wager on this game, because I won't be anywhere near it from a betting perspective this weekend, but if you press me to bet it, even with the deflated line value, I'd still only look toward Indy here. I mean, I really think there's all kinds of issues on and off the field with Oakland. They're not playing good on the field. Who's motivated off the field? Cooper gone. They see the writing on the wall. They're rebuilding. I could only recommend the Colts, but I'll be personally passing on this game.
Ian, I think I said at the start we would do bet on or fade teams. And skip that one, so that's on me. Did you want to throw out a bet on or fade team?
I think you do every
college
week.
Football.
It's funny you mentioned bet on team. It's fun, and it was a team that you briefly brought up their name in college football earlier, and it's going to stun people. The UTEP Miners, folks. The UTEP Miners. They haven't won a game yet. All right. That we don't care about that. We care about, are you covering numbers on a weekly basis? They're 3-0 against the spread. Look at their last two covers. Louisiana Tech and North Texas, two of the better teams in Conference USA. They're playing defense. The offense is getting better, and the betting markets aren't noticing. Not one little bit. That UTEP is still power rated like an absolute drag, a pathetic, horrendous football team. And because of that, there's been value on them. The last 3 weeks they've covered, two of them against legitimately quality teams inside this Conference USA. You got to give UTEP credit, and they're getting their best quarterback returning for this game coming up this weekend against UAB. Now, here's the issue. UAB obviously is the best team in this conference. It's very difficult to make a wager against them right now. Great win for them last week against North Texas, but this is a dubious spot for the Blazers now. You're talking about going on the road against little old UTEP and laying 16 and a half here in this football game. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if UTEP comes inside that number. They're definitely a team I would be looking at as a bet on team moving forward. Bet against team, believe it or not, for me is Wisconsin. And I'm going to be looking at going against them this week with Northwestern. All you do in Northwestern games is just bet the underdog. I mean, that's really all you do, and you're fantastic. You don't even have to think twice. And really dive into the matchups. You bet the underdog in Northwestern games. I don't think you've lost a bet this season. It happened again last week with Rutgers. Gave them a scare and hung in that game. Wisconsin going on the road, Northwestern. They've been tremendous in the dog roll. Let's not forget, double-digit dogs against Michigan State on the road. What did they do? They won that game outright. It's a capable Northwestern team. I think they're getting 6.5 last I checked against Wisconsin at home this weekend. I think that's a live home dog. I don't trust Hornibrook on the road. He's still an erratic passer. You know, the running game, I think, can be subdued a little bit by Northwestern's defense in this game. I think that's a game that comes right down to the wire.
All right, good one there, Ian. Donnie, did you want to throw out a bet on or fade team?
Yeah, there's some interesting ones in the NFL, and this is going to be set up by the trade deadline for most parts. I mean, number one, you might be looking at Oakland to see if they fire sell off even more Carl Joseph. They're looking at some other cornerbacks, trying to trade off the roster. Also, you're seeing a fire sale in effect for the New York Giants as well. Snacks Harrison goes for a 5th-round draft pick today. You already traded Eli Appleway, and the next guy to step up on stage to get moved will be Jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins, the other cornerback. So that might be some interesting things to take a look at moving forward. But then again, look, maybe you should just move on from your head coach, because I can go on a complete diatribe here on going for 2-point conversions when you're down 14 points and just makes no sense at all. And people will tell me that it does make sense, and we'll have a lot of fun with that as well. But those couple teams that I'm looking at here, that just based on the trading deadline, when the white flag is up, NFL players, look, baseball players are still going to play hard. The young kids are going to come up. But when the white flag comes up in the NFL, self-preservation for every single one of those athletes on the team, their only concern is not getting a devastating injury.
Good one there, Donnie. And Jeff, what about you? Bet on or fade team? You want to throw one out?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to knock Ian Cameron and his prediction there with the UTEP, but listen, I mean, if you want to step in front of UAB, be my guest. Yeah. And this team has been terrific. I mean, they are just beating up teams defensively. This team is 7th in the country against the pass. They're only giving up 15 points a game. I hear your standpoint on taking UTEP as a dog, but it's tough to do in this game. I mean, this UAB team's on another level. I mean, I think we have to look at, can UTEP score in this game? I mean, this UTEP team has arguably the worst quarterback in the country in Loxley, and this guy's a mess. Had up actually a pretty good game last week, but I don't know. UAB's a bet on team. They're a team that kind of fly under the radar every year. And Bill Clark just continues to do a terrific job there down in Birmingham. I mean, great defense, pretty good running back in Spencer Brown. I'm not saying, they could, UTEP could cover. I'm saying from a standpoint of down the road, UAB 6-1 against the spread. So, keep your eye on them. As far as a fade team, I think it's got to be Navy, the Naval Academy. I never like fading military schools, but I mean this team is just awful defensively, and there's just been some question marks at quarterback all year. I feel like they made the wrong decision at the beginning of the season. It's just been kind of one of those down years for Niumatalolo. That happens once in a while. You got 4-year players; they stay for 4 years. When they leave, you have a lot of holes to fill defensively, offensively, and off the field. These are leaders. These are guys that protect us, and you just have a down year for Niumatalolo. He's going to have to kind of calibrate and get back at it, but it doesn't get any easier. I mean, you're going in and taking on one of the best teams in the country this week in South Bend. I mean, what's Ian Book going to do against this Navy defense? This defense has gotten shredded all season. They're a team to keep your eye on because this isn't the same Navy team as in years past. They'll hang in a game for a quarter, but after that, they just get boat raced. You can't lose 35-7 to Air Force and you give up, a ton of points to SMU and teams like that. Notre Dame's gonna annihilate them.
I agree with you. One isn't that game in San Diego though, Jeff?
It is a neutral game, yeah.
I agree with you. Are you looking to lay the 23 with Notre Dame?
It's hard not to because as I said to you in the show on Monday, I mean, what does Navy do in this game from an offensive standpoint? They've had trouble moving the ball at times this year. This Notre Dame team are just bigger, stronger, more athletic. I know it's always the triple option, and that's tough to defend at times. But, I mean, can Navy score 30 points? Because that's probably what they're going to have to do to cover this game. Notre Dame will push 50. This looks to me like a 50-17 type of game, something like that. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Naval Academy right now.
But Jeff, how about the whole nationalistic, patriotism feel where you don't want to run it up on them Navy kids because they're going to be heading off to war and Notre Dame,
Yes.
They play each other every year, so they want a handshake at the end of the game. They both want to sing each other's alma maters. Maybe we see one of those Andy Reid, let's run the ball inside the 10 for a 1-yard gain and not score, and therefore you don't cover.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure that's at the mindsets of every Notre Dame player, Donnie. I mean, it's not let's beat this team up so we can continue to make it, make a championship run. I hear you though. People will make that point, Donnie. I've heard all sorts of emotional points lately about things that just don't make any sense. But I guess now we have to start thinking of that because guys like Frank Solich do that all the time. They just decide, well, late in the game, we're not going to punch in another.
He's in my coaching brotherhood over there. I can't embarrass him. Meanwhile, you got James Franklin over here going, I might have to take your job one day, so I need to get you fired as soon as I can.
Good point.
Good point there, Donnie. No, it's a funny way to look at it, for sure. Guys, we do got to get to best bets. I guess I can start us off. Going to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. We got this one on Thursday night. I don't know what Georgia Tech did to piss off the ACC schedule makers, but they're facing another team off of a bye, extra preparation time for the option at home. I like Virginia Tech, Bud Foster defense -3. Can get it pretty much across the board, so that will be my best bet. I'll take it -3, -104 at BetOnline for Virginia Tech over Georgia Tech on Thursday night. First best bet. Next up, Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, what do you got for best bets, man?
We're going to go to Mountain West action. I was going to actually go with USC -6.5 against Arizona State, as I think Arizona State is just fade material now after that little bit of a fraudulent start. But USC does have question marks with JT Daniels at quarterback. Jack Sears may have to play in this game Saturday, so I still like USC even if Daniels doesn't play, but I'm going to refrain from that as best bet. I'm going to go to Boise State Air Force instead. I'm going to grab the points with Air Force. I mean, you look at Air Force in every single loss this season. They've been in the games. They haven't been blown out, haven't lost by more than 10 points this season. And Boise State, when they've gone to Colorado Springs, they've had their hands full in recent years. Okay, they took care of business last week. against Colorado State. But on the road, Boise State's been human. They went to Reno a couple weeks ago against Nevada. We're laying two touchdowns, barely won the game, 31-27. Isaiah Sanders, quarterback, Cole Fagan, the running back for Air Force, leading that triple option attack. Air Force 5-1 against the spread. Last 6 head-to-head meetings against Boise State. I think Air Force getting 9.5 can hang. We'll look at the Falcons there against Boise State.
Air Force plus 9.5 for Ian Cameron. Guys, also do want to give a shout out before we get to Donnie and Jeff for the U-Wager contest special. It's a $10,000 value, 2 trips. You and a friend, you and your girl, whatever you want to do. Flights to Atlanta, the game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Super Bowl. All you got to do is click on the link here for the show and deposit $100 into U-Wager and eligible for the contest. That's 2 round-trip tickets to Atlanta, entry into the game, $500 spending cash, all for the Super Bowl there in Atlanta in February. So check that out. Click on the link to enter. Donnie, next up for Best Bets, follow him on Twitter at RightSideVP. What do you got for Best Bets, bud?
Yeah, let's go a little bit off the grid in the NFL here, not take a side. We're actually going to look at a total here, which I think may be a little bit under the radar, 261, 262. Seattle and Detroit, Russell Wilson versus Matt Stafford. The reason I like this game, and I actually like it over the total, is I think you were getting a lot of sloggy numbers early in the season from Seattle. Banged up, wide receivers, can't get it together, can't get out of their own way, infighting in the locker room. Sort of clean that up a little bit. If you look at the last 2 weeks out there, look, 31 points versus the Los Angeles Rams, followed up going over to London with another 27 spot. I think the Detroit defense has some holes in it that Seattle can exploit and put up some numbers, but also vice versa. If we're looking at the Detroit Lions in this game, 3 really talented wide receivers. You don't want to bang your head against the wall and run into their front 7, who is good. They might get KJ Wright back, but that secondary for the Seattle Seahawks is a little bit depleted. We're not going to get any weather here. It's turning into October, windy stadiums, rain, snow. Watch out for this and that. It's going to be in a dome. I think we're going to get some points. That number's set pretty high for these two teams at 49. I think they both can get over the total here, and the reason being is Seattle's a little bit undervalued on offense. I think they can very easily play into the 20s here, and I think Detroit can return fire with those weapons at wide receiver. Kerryon Johnson, War Eagle over there, Drew, really stepping up as a nice additive, because over the years, the one thing we're always missing with Detroit is, man, can we get a 100-yard rusher or a game breaker at running back? You might have that now. Throwing the gunslinger at Matt Stafford, good running game, 3 talented wide receivers. Russell Wilson is going to be able to make plays on his feet, which Detroit seemingly can't really get after the quarterback that well. I think get some points in Detroit this week in the Dome. Take over the total, 49.
I like it. Over 49. Seattle, Kerryon
I like
Johnson.
it too, and I want to.
His loss against Auburn was crazy. We've seen it with Auburn fall off, and also Seattle or Detroit really running all over that Dolphins defense. So we've seen it there too, Donnie. Ian, real quick, what did you have?
Just quickly, I want to mention something about Kerryon Johnson. Has the potential to be the best running back the Detroit Lions have had since Barry Sanders. I'm serious.
I thought you were going to go all in.
I
thought you were going all in, Ian, and just saying that he was going to be the best running back the Detroit Lions ever had. We like hot takes on here. Change that up. Rewind the show. Say he's going to be the best of all time in Detroit. We'll get some comments out there.
Exactly. He's not going to be better than Barry. I'd highly doubt that. But the next best one, absolutely, Kerryon Johnson. There'll be touchdowns when you're done. Yeah, he's been good. Very good. Yeah.
Big man on campus. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. What do you got for Best Bets, man?
Yeah, I'll go with something today. I'll give the people a little something here. I haven't been on the Champions League videos due to something else we're doing, but I'm going to go with Inter Milan today, +1 against Barcelona. Leo Messi is out for Barcelona. He's got a broken arm, so won't play in this match. Look, I think that leaves them a bit exposed. Barcelona will go with 3 up top a lot of the time. That leaves the midfield and back a little bit exposed. And Inter's playing good football right now. They've won 7 straight games. They're doing some good things right now. And I don't think that Barcelona is defending at a high level right now. Haven't kept a clean sheet in 9 straight matches. I think they're a little bit exposed at the back here. I'll take Inter. I think this team's good enough to hang around in this game, maybe get a result. It is on the road, but look out for Mauro Icardi. He's one of the best Italians in the world. I'm going to go with Internazionale +1, 2.01. So basically even money against Barca. Don't be surprised if they win this match. Barca a little bit down this year. They have obviously their best player out, the goal scorer. I'll take Inter Milan +1 against Barca.
Inter Milan. And for some American bettors out there that might not exactly know what you're talking about, do you have a game number?
I don't necessarily have a game number, but I mean it's in Champions League. It's the biggest league in the world. Inter Milan, Internazionale. That's another name for them. I got +1 at 2, so basically even money. Drew, if I can quickly, I urge all of you today, check out Donnie Rightside and myself on the radio, 3:00 Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. We're doing a giveaway, Drew, right now. Get a trivia question correct. Get yourself entered to win a little gift card from the boys. Donnie and I talk football. You want a sports betting question answered? You had a game you're looking at? We're one of the only sports betting radio shows in the country. Every day, iHeartRadio, SBR, WCKG in Chicago, the third biggest market in the United States. Make sure you're checking us out. Give us a call and say hello.
Donnie Rightside, Jeff Nadeau, Ian Cameron, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.